everybody. Welcome back to the Smart Getting Connect podcast. We are in the 5-minute follow-up version of our podcast, so it's a really condensed version. If you follow the podcast, you pretty much know what this is. My name is Tom Libby. I'm your host here at the Smart Getting Connect podcast, and I am also one of the founders of Smart Getting Connect. Gives me a pretty unique insight as to how these things happen and what works and what doesn't work on these podcasts. But today we're bringing back for our follow-up, our 5-minute follow-up, Melissa from Local Business First. So Melissa, why don't you just take a quick 30 seconds to reintroduce yourself to everybody and let them know what Local Business First does.
Awesome. Good to be back. Hey everyone, I'm Melissa. And as a quick reminder, I'm a content writer for Local Business First, which is a web design agency, really focused on offering affordable options for all types of local business owners to build a beautiful professional website. And we offer other services to our clients that go along with that, like search engine optimization, Google business profile optimization, blog writing, social media posting and content marketing, and fun stuff like that. So I'll stop there.
Awesome. And that I'm glad you mentioned a couple of those things, because I think that's really where I want to gear this 5-minute follow-up with you, because you are an expert at creating content. And on the original podcast, you mentioned something about a tool you use called Phrase. And for those of you who don't remember or didn't see that podcast or hear that podcast, Phrase is an AI writing tool similar to the Chat GPTs of the world and the Microsoft Copilots, Bard, all those AI driven content creation tools. But people have a tendency to have some pretty strong opinions on either when to use them, why to use them, how to use them, and they range all over the place. So Melissa, I feel very cool. I feel very happy having somebody like you on the podcast to talk about this, because this is your thing, right? Like you're a content creator, so you and your opinion about this is going to have a lot of weight for me. So
Yeah.
so talk to us a little bit about it. So what are your thoughts and feelings about these AI tools writing content for people?
Yeah, this is fun. I think this is the most asked question I get when I tell people I'm a content writer, or it was at least over like the past year when everyone was going crazy over Chat GPT. Um, Yeah, so I have strong opinions because I've used it, because it kind of seems like a magic wand, right? Like, oh my gosh, I can give it a topic and like my parameters and my keywords and create this content like almost instantly. So I've tried it. And personally, like on I think there needs to be a little bit more nuance to how people use it than just using it to create an entire website or write blogs for them or create social media, whatever. I think it just needs to be nuanced. And the reason um I say that is because I think the content that it creates right now is still you can still tell it's written by a robot, in my opinion. Like there just needs to be a personal human touch on like the flow, like just the anecdotes, like everything used throughout it, it just still needs a human touch and a human brain and human writing skills. Um, yeah. So I have a nuanced way that I use it in Local Business First. Um, and I do have like use cases where I think it's very helpful. But I guess, yeah. Does that pique any questions on your end?
Of course, yeah. I probably have a million questions, none of which we'll have time for today because we have only 5 minutes here. But but it does lead to a couple of things, right? So this idea or concept that you can tell, right? So
Mhm.
the bad news is, if we can tell it's written by a robot, then the search engines can certainly tell it's written by a robot, right? Have you had experience where purely AI written content is being suppressed and not necessarily found quite well enough on throughout your which is and how much of your injection has to happen in order for that not to happen, if it has? So talk a little bit about that.
Right. So I actually have heard word around town is that Google is actually going to start suppressing content that it deems to be written by AI completely. Um, so honestly, like the sophistication of it right now, I just feel like this is how I use it, and I think this is a good way to look at it. Is you can use AI writing tools for content research. Um, and you can create amazing outlines, kind of like get your brain flowing on what kind of topics or headings. That's what is really helpful, because headings are something, is it like a structure in content that search engines use to index content. Um, so having good headings that have keywords in them is really important, and an AI writing tool can help you do that if you don't know how to do that on your own. Um, and if you are in a pinch, like, it can help you write entire blogs and websites, and then optimize it with keywords so it doesn't sound crazy. But I think that anytime you're using AI, like, a human being needs to actually, like, put together the paragraphs and the sentences, or at least heavily edit the content that's produced. But it's super helpful when you just don't know what to write about, or you're in, like, every business industry has competition, right? And everyone's vying for those top spots in Google, right? So it really helps you discern what those topics actually are, and like compare your content to those things that are coming up in search engine results. So you have much better chances of doing that, like as a local business or a small business.
So this is not really hugely public knowledge because I haven't had opportunities to speak on the subject too often. But I'm one of the probably one of the few people I'm not a fan, right? I'm really
Yeah.
not a fan of content written by AI. Um,
Yeah.
the very few occasions where I've heard it used and leveraged really, really acceptably, you mentioned one. I'm going to give you another. So there was one where you mentioned like outlining. I think that's fine. If you're going to use AI and say, "Listen, I want to write a blog about the ten best methods. That's the 10 best sales methods available, right?" And it populates like number one. It just gives you a list of the 10, and then you can be an authority in speaking to those 10, and you write the content based on the outline. I'm perfectly okay with that because the actual meat and potatoes of the content is your own. The second
Yep.
way is if you're in the process of writing and you get a writer's block and you're like, I
Yes.
just can't think of the next line. And you say,
Yep.
like, you put into ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever, and you go, here's my current thought process. What should the next line be? And it can give you like one line, right? That you go, oh, that line makes sense. I'm going to rewrite it to be in my own words, and I'm going to continue on
Yep.
writing, right? Like that, or you have a sentence that you wrote that you don't like the sound of it, and you go, can you rewrite this
Yeah.
sentence? It's still your
Yep.
sentence, like you're still writing it, but now it's giving you alternative methods for either adjectives or verbs or whatever that you need to kind of plug and play with them. Those two scenarios I have zero problem with now. I did a while ago, but I have zero problem with them now. I do have a slight problem with people using it to write like continuous content. Like that's unacceptable to me. And you can't go around boasting that you're a thought leader and using AI to write your blogs for you, right? Like that's not a thought leader. That's just a content. That's content push, which doesn't really
Yeah.
help anybody, right? Like, and that's the other part that, again, to your point a little when you said the word around town is Google's catching wind of this, right? So Google's algorithm is now starting to be designed to recognize content push, which is basically somebody who writes a blog a day because they're using ChatGPT or one of these other AI written things, and now you're publishing a blog a day just to get the content is king theory out onto your website or whatnot. And Google's starting to
Right.
recognize this, and they're starting to suppress it. So
Yeah.
I think our 5 minutes is about up. So I will give you the last word before I sign off. Is there any last thoughts you have on this before we close out?
Yeah. I just think that people's authentic voice has such a place in the market. And
Yep.
I really don't think that content writing is ever going to get taken over by AI. I don't think, yeah, I just don't. Like, the tools can be more sophisticated, but I don't know. We all have a unique voice and a unique way that we talk about things. And there's a lot of value in that. And people don't want to be spammed with
Yep.
robotic content. They want to read real stories and real businesses and real people and real scenarios. So, um, yeah, use AI to leverage certain things, but use your voice to really connect with people.
I agree with all of that. And with that, we'll be signing off here. So thank you very much, Melissa, again for coming on. It was impressive. It was awesome to talk to you. You definitely have some expertise that I enjoy talking with. So I appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you too. Thanks.
And for everybody out there listening, keep selling.